topic is soft diplomacy, and here we will try to understand what is the meaning of soft diplomacy. And second is, if one nation adopt the soft diplomacy, then is there any benefit for adopting the soft diplomacy or not? So here we'll try to understand all of these things together. So let's start the term soft diplomacy. Before starting the term soft diplomacy, first of all we try to understand what is the meaning of diplomats, what is the meaning of diplomacy. So diplomacy means, suppose if one nation's promoting the relations with another country in the political sense is known as diplomacy. Means, what does it mean? It means that, suppose if one nation talk to another nations in the political sense is known as diplomacy. For example, if India talk to US in the political sense is known as diplomacy. And the terms diplomacy itself are of two types. One is the hard diplomacy and second is the soft diplomacy. That is the topic today, that soft diplomacy. So before starting the term soft diplomacy, first of all we understanding what is the meaning of hard diplomacy. Hard diplomacy means, suppose if one country promoting the relations with another nations, but they are believing on the strengthening their powers, to strengthening their demonstration effect, means to solve their powers, to solve their strengthening, to solve their demonstration effect is known as the hard diplomacy. Means, what does it mean? So finally we can conclude that what is the meaning of hard diplomacy. Hard diplomacy means when one nations promoting the relations with another nations, but these two nations having the same thinking level, that we are always the superior within nations. Means, we are always to promoting the military power within whole worlds, and we are always promoting to strengthening their powers, to strengthening their demonstration effect. So this is the known as the hard diplomacy. So is there any hard diplomacy adopted by India or not? The answer will be yes. India also adopted hard diplomacy. How you can say that the India adopted the hard diplomacy? The answer will be the nuclear test at Pokhran. So it is the sign of hard diplomacy, because hard diplomacy always believe on to showing of their power, to showing of their strengthening within whole world, to showing of their demonstration effect within whole world. So this is the meaning of hard diplomacy, and just opposite to it is the soft diplomacy. Soft diplomacy means, suppose if one nations promoting the relations with another nations, but they are believing on the people to people contact are be going to within two nations, and the cultural relations will have to be promoted. So finally we can conclude that what is the meaning of soft diplomacy. Soft diplomacy means, suppose if one nations promoting the relations with another nations, and these two nations having the same belief that we are promoting the people to people contact, and we are promoting the cultural effectiveness. So this is called the soft diplomacy. So for example, one example, that is we know that the Tri regions, means the border area of Nepal and India, the Tri regions, there are many cultural similarities which are found in both of the areas. That's why the India and Nepal always to promoting the soft diplomacy, because the soft diplomacy are the part of people to people contact and the cultural influences within that part of areas, like in regions. Okay, so this is the meaning of soft diplomacy. So one question arises in your mind: is there any soft diplomacy found on India Pakistan bilateral relations or not? So the answer will be yes. There are many soft diplomacy found on India Pakistan bilateral relations. For example, the cultural diplomacy, we know that there are many artists who are they are belonging from Pakistan, but they are work on India. So this is the sign of cultural diplomacy, and we know that the cultural diplomacy is a part of soft diplomacy. So that's why the part of soft diplomacy, it will be the promoting for the better relations. And second is the sport diplomacy. We know that the match that is India Pakistan, so that is the part of diplomacy, and the sport diplomacy is a part of soft diplomacy. And soft diplomacy is always believe on what the people to people contact and the cultural relations. So we can say that the soft diplomacy is a very good because they are promoting the peace, prosperity and development within nations. So this is the concept of soft diplomacy. But the soft diplomacy cannot 100% efficiently work unless and until, in the case of India Pakistan bilateral relations, okay, it cannot work on India-Pakistan bilateral relations unless and until the Pakistan give up the terror activity on Srinagar areas. We know that there are many terror activities which was sponsored by the Pakistan on India. So soft diplomacy cannot work on India-Pakistan bilateral relations unless and until the Pakistan will give up that. So this is the whole concept of the soft diplomacy. So finally we can conclude that the yes, soft diplomacy is very good for the diplomat to starting the diplomats within the nations, because the soft diplomacy always believe on the peace, prosperity and the development of the two nations or more than two nations. So this is the concept of soft diplomacy. Thank you very much.